Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. We've got another win to report on, guys. Unbelievable stuff. And we've not quite got a full house because the chocolate factory is needing to ramp up their chocolate ahead of Christmas. But I'm joined by Ryan, Liam, and Greg. Greg, how we doing, mate?
Very well, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I'm glad to see you're on time this week. I said to the boys that I would call you out for it, so I did. Liam, how you doing?
I liked your chocolate factory comment there, but all I could think about in my head was I had a wee image of you and as a Santa and you and moonlighting as a Santa at this time of year. They're bringing a wee bit extra dough. You could kind of picture you with a white beard, pretending to be Santa. That does seem quite plausible. It's but you and spending his evenings in supermarkets and garden centres pretending to be a Santa at Christmas time.
I reckon he
Bring
would
home the
like
bacon.
he'd keep messing up though. He'd be like ha 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 instead of ho ho ho. Um, and Ryan, how are you getting on? The hair's looking good this week, mate. Liking it.
Just brushed it about 30 seconds ago to make sure that Dave Graham wasn't on my case. So, no, I'm all right. Hibs dictate the mood for the rest of the week following a weekend. So, it started well.
Nice, mate. And talk to us. Were you up in Dundee for the game, Ryan?
Unfortunately, I was hosting my in-laws. My in-laws are nice people. It's just unfortunate that I missed the game. So, I watched it, though. I managed to watch it. I was pretty happy with the outcome. And again, we showed some sides to the game that we maybe haven't seen yet, like managing to see out a kind of backs against the wall performance and get 3 points out of it. So there was elements to the game that I enjoyed and that I haven't seen before. So I was happy with obviously the outcome and the 3 points.
And if we take it back a step, Liam, kind of just focusing on the first half, do you think there was an improvement, a noticeable improvement from previous games, or do you think that we just kind of started the game quite well?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a noticeable improvement in previous games. I thought we were good last game as well. So, no, I wouldn't have said so. There was a good tempo about us, but I wasn't like blown away by the way we started. And I think Campbell had that chance quite early on, didn't he? Which was quite a good chance actually. Didn't think at the time watching it, it was a great chance. But seeing it back, I was like, that was a good chance. But no, I wasn't. I don't think it was a notable upturn. But that's only because I don't think we were that bad the week before.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg, let's dive into probably the best moment of the whole game. That first goal was quite a work of art, literally from back to front. Tavares essentially starting the move and ending it. Just how much of a surprise has Tavares been since Montgomery's came in?
Look, obviously it's been a surprise, but it was purely down to the previous regime writing him off, and he obviously had a well documented game at Berwick where he got subbed. But look, fair play. The new regime have come in. They've got him playing, hitting the heights that we want to see him hitting. And to be honest, I'm just glad that this time he scored. He managed to get the limelight.
Yeah, indeed. And looking back at that goal, Dylan Vente's not really been amongst the goals of late in terms of actually getting on the score sheet, but he seems to be just picking players out for fun in the box. Liam, how vital is it to have a striker that can kind of do different parts of the game as opposed to just goal scoring?
He's quite an unselfish player. He's very different from the player I think we all thought we were going to get. Like when we saw his goal scoring record, I think we just assumed we were going to get this total sort of fox in the box type. But he actually is very, very good at other parts of the game. Maybe so much so that he's not been seen in the boxes maybe as much as you'd like because he's doing so much of that unselfish work. But I think his awareness and his way to pass for the goal is just very, very good, isn't it? The run as well. The run goes kind of underappreciated. You watch him, he points and tells Tavares where to put the ball. And he just runs on it just very well. He has been very, very good, and the fact that he's not scoring goals at the moment, but none of us are complaining about him, tells you just how good he's been in other facets of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan, obviously the system that we've played under Montgomery, that's probably the first time we've seen a goal as a direct product of that, kind of working the ball from the back. I know Liam's a huge fan of Tavares on the half turn, which he seems to be getting better at week by week. But just how nice is it to see the plan finally get executed?
Yeah, I think we've all said it's going to take time for everybody to get into the swing of playing it. But I think if you have a player like Tavares that can do that in the half turn, it really unlocks the game a little bit further apart for you. And playing out from the back did suck Dundee in on that occasion, and it gave us room further apart to do the things I've been saying we will do when we play from the back and we do it effectively. I think also when you have your striker pulling out wide there, the centre half's really got a decision to make if he goes out with him or if he stays. So it does trouble defences, and then obviously opens the space up in the box. I think Josh Campbell was really clever just to kind of shimmy out the way of that and kind of put a couple of players off, and Tavares walks right on it, and it's composed finish. Cam, I mean, you've seen players in that situation blaze it over the bar, so it was good to see him tuck it away. But it was lovely. It was exactly what we want to see. That's what the system's there for. You know, to get the ball into the dangerous players further up the park and more space, and it worked absolutely a treat.
And in terms of talking points in the first half, there was a couple of good saves from Marshall, but then the big one from a Hibs point of view, Liam kind of touched on the Campbell chance, but Lewis Miller got brought down in the box, and from my point of view, I just don't really understand why it wasn't reviewed. Like I can understand it not being a penalty if you just kind of say it was it wasn't a coming together. It was slightly clumsy from the Dundee player, but I suppose it might have been a harsh one to give. But do you guys understand that not being reviewed? That's just kind of open to anybody that wants to answer it.
No. Maybe, we're not allowed to talk about VAR, but there's a number of incidents over the course of the weekend that weren't reviewed or penalties weren't given that should have been. And much softer penalties were given over the course of the weekend. I think that's all we need to say on it.
The thing is, I think if we were to start talking about VAR, it would take up a lot of the episode and we'd get nowhere. So I think we'll leave that to other podcasts.
And we'll just stick to controversy though, because it was a massive part of the game. Lewis Miller ended up getting 2 bookings. I know he scored before that, but we'll talk about the red card since we're talking about controversy. Also on YouTube, and we have had Hibs brackets Jaden. If that is the Hibs that has been calling themselves Hibs for ages, and they finally got Jaden in there. Hello, Jaden. Hope you're doing well. But Lewis Miller picked up a yellow card in the first half, and then again in the second half, getting himself a red card. I think both of them were a bit harsh, to be honest. I don't think he books him for the second one if he's not already booked. And I think the first booking with Robertson, he always seems to book one player, then go on a frenzy of booking about 5 players in the next 10 minutes. And Miller kind of started the dominoes toppling. Liam, sorry, you were about to say.
Oh, no, actually it wasn't bad. My tuppence worth was neither of them were bookings. The second one's certainly not a booking. There's a bit of contact initially, but then Beck then decides to go down later on. The only person really who should be booked in that scenario was Owen Beck for waving the imaginary yellow card, which my understanding was that was an automatic booking now in the game. But it seems that referees struggle to apply the rules consistently, which I think is a big problem. He just should have been booked there. Miller shouldn't have been booked. I think the first one of the two is maybe the one that's slightly more of a booking, but I don't really think either of them are bookings in the context of the game.
Whilst I don't think it's a booking, I don't think it's particularly great defensive play from Miller there. I think he's kind of shown an eagerness to win the ball, maybe too eager, and he gets caught on the wrong side. I'm not saying it's a foul, not a booking, but he just has to stand him up and show him down the line, and he kind of removes that element of the referee even having a decision to make. And I think, as you said, like he was always going to book him because he was on a yellow. That's what referees do. They've always done it and they always will do it. But I just want Miller to kind of stand him up and see him down the line there, and then defend a narrow angle for a cross. That's what you want him to do.
And Greg, if we look back at the game, obviously, as mentioned, Miller did get himself on the score sheet. I think he's like 2nd or 3rd top goal scorer at the club this season randomly. But is set pieces something that Hibs should be looking to take more advantage of, Greg? It was a really good ball in from Joe Newland. We've got quite a few like tall, strong players that we could be aiming at in the box these days with likes of Fish, Rocky, Miller, all going up for corners. Yeah, kind of throwing that to you, Greg. Just should set pieces be a bigger part of Hibs' game?
I think set pieces should be a big part of every team's game, to be honest. You should always be looking to score from set pieces or make them count. I think it's something that Hibs haven't been great at in recent times, but absolutely, like, you need to be good ball in the box and try to win it. I think that's pretty standard stuff, really, Harry.
Fair enough. And Dave sent in on Twitter, when was the last time you saw the players celebrate a goal together like they did that second goal? Looks like a real togetherness, and I'm on board with it. Liam, what do you make of that? The players all getting excited and happy after.
I can't really say it's something I've noticed an awful lot. I noticed it because it's been pointed out to us, but I can't say it's something I've paid a huge amount of attention to. I'm conscious everything feels really rosy and positive just now, right? Because we've won 2 games in a row, and all of a sudden the narrative's flipped in terms of how we're doing. But it reminds me a wee bit of when we got asked that question last season: is this the most likeable Hibs team ever? I think people maybe just understand people's enthusiasm and things feel good just now, but I just didn't want to get too carried away. Yeah, it looks like there's a togetherness. The coaches are doing a lot of great things. I think the Sergio Raimundo interview they did on Inside Training will have given quite a lot of fans a good insight and maybe a wee bit of a boost as well, that we've got someone at the club who speaks so passionately but so credibly about what the work he's done to date. But I just think we just need to maybe just chill.
And Ryan, just for your opinion, Jeff Ashton on that also said, an enjoyable day out, mentioned elsewhere, but there seems to be a real togetherness with the squad. I noticed the youngsters on the bench were the first to run to Jair at the end. Do you think, if anything, it's benefited Jair to a certain extent, the fact that he's kind of got those relationships built with the younger players?
Well, I mean, he would have been with them most of the time whilst training if he was in the development squad. So I think that's probably helped him feel less alienated from the club as a whole. And then when he shifted up back into the main team, a couple of those guys have came with him. So it's probably made that transition smoother for him, albeit he knew the majority of the squad anyway. But he's still a young guy himself, so he will have strong relationships with these players, especially given that they're around about the same age as him. But listen, it is good to see. You want your players to all be in the same kind of frame of mind pre and post game. You all want them to be together. You want them to be fighting for each other on the pitch. You want all that. Like that should be natural anyway. And I agree with what Liam's saying along the lines that looking very good just now. But it can turn quickly, and we know that from this fan base and probably every fan base in football. But it is good to see, don't get me wrong.
And then Jeff followed up by saying, exceptional. I can't believe the transformation in Jair from the forlorn figure at Livy last season to yesterday's confident young man. Miller, on the other hand, always looked like a player just not trusted by Lee Johnson. Let's speak about Lewis Miller kind of as a whole, not just getting sent off and scoring goals, sorry. Greg, just how much of a revelation has he been? Obviously, right back was a position at the start of the season. I think we were all on record saying that we wanted to bring a player in to at least compete with him, whereas now Miller's just stick on and he's just a reliable option to have in the team.
To be fair, you seen last season he was a good player. Unsure why the Garden Gnome decided he wasn't good enough to play every week, but you could see there was a player in there, and he was a threat with a long throw. I think all you're really seeing is a manager that's come in and is trusting him. That's the only difference, is that this manager seems to trust the players and has a much better relationship with the players than what went previously. And that breeds confidence, and that breeds confidence in the squad, and it breeds confidence in individuals. And that's exactly what you're seeing.
I think that relationship's massive, Harry. Like he talked about a wee bit that in the interview he did with the Hibs Ramble, where he talked about his relationship with Montgomery and coming across from Australia and things he'd learned from already, and like touched on some really key things there, and trust being one of them. But I think just a bit of an understanding of what that player's strengths are. And to be honest, I never really understood why when Miller did play, it seemed to be against the more challenging fixtures in the league. Because for me, is probably a lot of his best facets of his game are in an attacking sense rather than a defensive sense. I still think he's got a lot to learn defensively, Miller. I do. I think the praise that him and Tavares are getting at the moment is absolutely warranted. But Miller did get sent off at the weekend, and Tavares gave away a ball, I don't know if you remember, in the first half that led to that Luke McCowan chance, which on another day, if Marshall doesn't make that save, you then look on the performance very differently. So whilst they are playing really well, they're still making mistakes because they're young players who are learning the game still. So I think it's just maybe a need not to get too carried away, because you've got a young team, they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Miller and Tavares, Lewis Young in the YouTube comment said, did you watch the Jair Tavares interview? I did. I do really like the boy. I respect players that can kind of open up like that, and hard not to feel a bit sorry for him, because it does feel like he's kind of had a hard run of things. He did give up everything to come to Scotland. It's a completely different country to Portugal, but he's finally found his feet. Did any of you guys watch it?
Yeah. I think during the time when he was ostracised by the manager, it didn't help the kind of the fans' view of him. It maybe tainted our vision of him a little bit. Lee Johnson kind of putting him out of the squad, saying he wasn't good enough. Automatically, we kind of accept the manager's opinion after that, and we don't have anything to judge him off because he's not playing. So he probably done him no favours.
See on that though, do we always have to accept the manager's opinion on it?
Nah,
Because like,
but
have we maybe like as a group, have we maybe been a wee bit lazy and are accepting Lee Johnson's opinion on players? Because ultimately, we were all like this time a year ago, we were all criticising Lee Johnson, but yet we were happy to take his judgment as read on certain players. I just think he's obviously made quite a lot of mistakes in his tenure, and I'm sure he would reflect on some of those mistakes. But the sort of non-inclusion of Tavares and Miller at the moment look like, I mean, they would have improved us greatly at the beginning of this season, early last season. I just thought it's an interesting one, like, because we talked about giving a clean slate to players when the new manager came in, but actually does it need to go further than giving a clean slate? And actually, just when there's not a new manager there, it's not just assuming a player's not a good player because he's not getting a game.
Yep. No, you're spot on. And I think there's lessons to be learnt from us as fans as well. Given the bounce back of Tavares, because let's face it, 99% of us made our thoughts clear on him, not just in this podcast, but the fan base as a whole. So I think, going forward, you make a good point, and there's obviously lessons to be learnt big time.
I definitely agree to an extent, but in terms of like trusting the manager's judgment, that's the person that you're like essentially is being trusted to pick your team week in, week out. It's a person that sees them like 4 times a week, etc., in training, and then being honest, from what I saw of Tavares in the limited minutes he got, and I think he did actually get a fair chunk, especially at the start of last season. Not just because of Lee Johnson, but I personally didn't want him in the team. I was part of the bandwagon being like, why is Lewis Miller not getting more time? I know you had written him off after Falkirk. So I think
it's because he's a right back. He just likes writing off right backs.
So I think there's definitely merit in what you're saying in terms of you shouldn't just take it as gospel because he's a manager. But I think the Tavares story, the reason I personally think it's such a redemption arc is because everybody, as far as I'm concerned, justifiably had written him off to a certain extent, and then he's kind of back against the wall, kicked on, and actually shown that he can be a player. But confidence breeds performance for the most part with footballers. If you can get a guy hitting on all cylinders, it's got a certain level of ability, they're going to show up. And also from YouTube, we've got one of our favourites, Kevin Maddox. Kev from Newcastle here. Evening, Kinping, Harry and Fab Free. Hope you're well. Great result, especially with man down. Things definitely looking up. Like Miller, but keep Cam, Canayo and Cadden waiting. Meg was someone that's kind of been touted massively. I know he's on loan at Airdrie, but if next season we've got on the books Canayo, Megwa, Lewis Miller and Chris Cadden, that might be our most refined position on the football pitch if we've got that much depth in our position. To counter that though, Cian McGrath said, I think it would be worth giving Miller a go at centre half when Cadden is back, when fixture list gets busy.
He's too aggressive for centre half. Like, aggression's good, but if you're overly aggressive in centre half, you can get exposed easily. Like Saturday when he got sent off, he was too eager to go out there and win the ball. You need to be much more reserved at centre half, read the game a bit better. I think his aggression's well suited to where he plays just now, and you wouldn't want to take that out of him. So just leave him where he is. Liam's already said like some of his best facets are going forward as well. So you eliminate another threat by doing that. Whilst it would be an ideal world to have Cadden going forward as well, it's maybe not viable.
I don't think he can be too aggressive as a centre half, to be honest. I think his issue is that defensively he's maybe not at the level he needs to be to play centre half. I think that's the issue.
It's just
aggressive centre
half.
People call Rocky rash in that, but maybe he's just overly aggressive. So it's narrative, brother.
Overly aggressive isn't a thing.
I've had it on good authority that in a bounce game, which would either be 7-a-side or 5-a-side, Greg can certainly be a very aggressive centre half, no matter what the circumstances.
This is
Aggressive and hospitalising.
Greg's all talk, man.
You want to win, though. You want to win. Do you know what I mean? 5s or 5s, 7s, whatever. You want to win. That's just
that. Sick of hearing about it, man. Just talk. I'm yet to see it.
Oh, well, get yourself into Spartans one of these days. Greg will get on at some point. But Cian McGrath also said in other LJ Watch news, he had a classic David Brent Hardman interview with the local radio that's worth listening to. Don't miss that man at all. I think Ryan shared it to our Twitter chat, and yeah, he was at one of his finest, David Brent-esque. It's just mad that he was our manager less than 3 months ago. Like, he's just such a weirdo, isn't he?
I've not listened to one of his interviews since he's left because I don't have to anymore. I won't listen to him anymore. I genuinely won't. I won't put myself through it. It's genuinely like PTSD sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Putting yourself
Was it
through
he
it.
said it was a real punch in the nose?
He said we gave the opposite, or we took a punch in the nose, we got a reaction. Just fucking shit.
They
Shut
get
up.
skidded 3-0 at home, off Stevenage.
I did like
Shame.
we
Shame.
definitely weren't good enough today, but we were quite good at times. I thought that was quite entertaining from LJ. But like, if we flip it around though, in terms of Montgomery, I think we have been really. He's just kind of that breath of fresh air. I think that comes with quite a lot of new managers when results are relatively favourable. But he just seems like quite a genuine guy and quite easy to root for. How do you find his media presence so far, Ryan? Coming to you on that one.
Yeah, I like it. I like somebody that just is kind of clear in what they're saying and they stand by it. None of this jargon. He's honest in his assessment. And I don't think he's scared to nip back either. I heard somebody ask him a question about, were you relieved that you managed to hang on? And he kind of quipped back saying, well, we beat a good side at home last week and we've done the same away from home this week. So, it's not about hanging on, which I quite like. He's not going to take the media pressure and cripple and give them an answer they want to hear. But yeah, I like him. I trust him. He's built up more trust in this short time than Lee Johnson had in his whole tenure. Basically, whatever he says, man, I'll believe it, and there's evidence to show it.
See, Harry, on that, the last 2 games we've beaten probably the 2 teams that were most likely to maybe challenge the sort of established top 6 for last season, I would say. So I think it's 2 quite important points. I'm not going to use any cliches about the number of points that we've won by winning those said games because better than that. But I do think it's interesting that we've gone and beaten those 2 teams probably by a narrow margin, probably not really in the manner that we'd maybe expect to have won those 2 games. But we showed a different type of performance, a different type of grit, and then his interview afterwards, to be honest, I think reflected that fairly. It wasn't wonderful free-flowing attacking football across those 180 minutes, but we got the job done. I think he's maybe learnt a wee bit for the experience of going to Ibrox as well, which I like to see. I like to see managers learn for maybe mistakes a little bit, earlier on in their tenure. He's demonstrated he can do that. But in terms of how he presents himself, it's all about what you like, eh? Like, if you like someone who's just he's got a presence about him, but he's not particularly an interesting speaker. He's not particularly dynamic, but his interviews are fine. So as long as you're winning, it's grand. You wouldn't want him to captivate a room, but at the same time, it's just fine, isn't it? Like, it's better than having someone who makes your club a bit of a laughing stock.
Aye. I think that probably makes me appreciate him a bit more, like me as an individual, because of what we had to endure before. I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but just appreciating the basic things in a manager's interviews, like paramount these days, man.
But he talks well. It's not like he's just saying random stuff. Like, he does talk well, and he'll elaborate on his points and not over elaborate like the last one. But I just think he comes across really well. And look, he's probably different behind closed doors in the dressing room. He's not going to be like that, but it's just a breath of fresh air that we've got a manager that talks like a normal guy.
It's fine though if he's different behind closed doors, eh? Like, if he wants to go through players and that's all right. But Lee Johnson would openly do it in the press, and there's something that doesn't. You just alienate your changing room when you do that a lot of the time. So if it's behind closed doors, fair enough, man.
His interviews are a wee bit like what Neil Warnock described him as a player. Neil Warnock said he's a 7 out of 10 every week, never a 5 or never a 9. His interviews are just a 7 out of 10 for me every time, and I'm absolutely fine with that. Just keep buying. If every one of our players played 7 out of 10 every single week, we would be absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy with that.
My thing, I think I said it a couple of weeks back on the pod, but I just don't think that consistently drawing ever sticks forever. I think that at some point they either turn into wins or they turn into losses. like just more consistently than draws. And I think that we're starting to see that we're kind of eking out those wins. As Liam said, it we weren't we weren't fantastic across the entire spectrum of time. Adam Smith 295 said Monty beating teams that he was drawing against originally, great to see. I think that's a really fair point. It's two teams that realistically we should have beat last time we played against them. Like if you compare the Dundee game where we literally battered them for 90 minutes and couldn't score, whereas with this game we kind of utilised a new system to get a goal, and then we utilised a set piece to get another goal. Like we're definitely showing improvements in areas from just the like few weeks that Montgomery's been here. And he said, who was the last player you remember having a turnaround like Tavares? I don't think there's ever like been this intense a turnaround. Like I know for like Will Fish, for example, obviously his debut not great at right back, but that was like a one-off game, and then he like shut out the team for ages, and he came back and just started balling out. But has there been a player that's like everybody had essentially been like, all right, let's just kind of can this, and then they turned it around? You could potentially throw Josh Campbell in there. But I can't think of anybody else from recent. Oh, yeah, Deutsch is fair.
I was going to say
Deutsch was after Pataudry. Deutsch was getting all sorts of abuse.
I still remember the tweet with the 4 screenshots of the 4 sitters he'd missed in the one game. Yeah.
No, I'm sure there will be someone. There will be someone. Like there'll be someone who's had, but it's just over such a prolonged period. Even though he didn't play many games the entire season, and then nothing, and then even into the beginning of this season, and then a new manager comes to terms. I'm struggling to think of anyone right now, but I'm going to spend the rest of this podcast thinking about it, so I can give you a name at the end.
And because I even remember after, because he's the first game with Montgomery that Tavares played a part in was Kilmarnock away, and after the game, like Montgomery was like, "Yeah, he showed me some signs that there's definitely a good player there." And we were all like, "What is he chatting about?" But maybe he did see something that we were missing.
Man management, mate. Man management, putting a wee bit of confidence into him, and he's built that up over the course of the 5-6 weeks. So that's his method. It obviously works. Again, there's evidence to it working.
Aye. And did you see that his family's moved over? Kian mentioned that on the old comment section as well. But yeah, no, it's great that he's got his family over from Australia finally. I think just in terms of settling into the country, it's nice that he's going to have that. He's got his family to lean back on, which is always a good thing. So kind of looking back at the game, we covered most of the key talking points, but some individuals, let's do the thing where we talk about an individual we've not covered off yet. I'll get the ball rolling. I think Rocky's probably been our player of the month. I think he's just consistently been very good throughout. I think he just blocks everything, because typically when we've seen the good side of Rocky, he just kind of heads everything away and doesn't really do anything. But I think with the ball at his feet, even though he's having to be on his left side, I think he's just looked really impressive. I think last ditch defending, even though they ended up scoring afterwards, the block before their goal I actually thought was a really decent block. He just threw himself at it and made himself huge. So yeah, Rocky gets mash out of. Honourable mention, I think it's pretty difficult to pick a man of the match that isn't Tavares at the weekend. But apart from that, Ryan, was there anybody that particularly impressed you at that game?
I think I've seen Jordan Obita over the course of 3-4 weeks now, and he's probably never had a bad game since Montgomery's been here. And I think that consistency at left back's been very important for us, given over the last year or so we had Cabria and Stevenson coming in and out. I've been very impressed with him defensively and going forward. I think he adds another element to our attacking threat. He gets up that line very well. He actually put a good ball in midway through the second half that nobody was in the box for. It's those type of balls that, you know, can create danger and havoc at the back for the opposition. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from him. He's barely put a foot wrong since Montgomery's been here.
And Liam, any players in particular impressed you at the weekend?
It's just probably shout out David Marshall. I'm still very much in the camp that I think that the other goalie should be playing, but he made some good saves at the weekend. He's not been brilliant, but he's probably been okay since Montgomery's been in. But yeah, no, some big saves. Now you've mentioned it, because just you asked me to think of someone who's had a bigger turnaround. You just said the name Rocky. Like, remember, folk were absolutely fizzing that we'd signed him permanently, and now you're talking about him being player of the month. Probably the best centre back at the club at the moment, based on form as well, over the course of the season. That's a pretty big turnaround, if you ask me.
And even Will Fish, like if you look at Fish, the first like 4 or 5 games of the season, he was having a pretty shocking start, and then he's turned it around massively, and again just consistently solid throughout. Greg, one thing that Montgomery's been criticised for on quite a few occasions has been his subs. I thought he might have taken Levitt off a bit early. Some people are saying that he looked a bit when he went off, but I thought Jimmy Jeggo, I thought again, he's never fantastic, but he does his job. I think it is good to have those types of players in the team.
You try to get me to praise Jimmy Jeggo,
I was trying to get you to praise just players doing their job, Greg. I thought that's just the type of simple basics that you like.
That's literally all you ask a player to do, is do their job. He done his job, and he's been doing his job on a more regular basis now, which is good to see. But yeah, I actually think the whole team just looks a lot more comfortable. And we just look a lot more together than what we did previously. And also, like that Will Fish said, that playing at right back was unnatural for him. Just to let everybody know, if they didn't already know, that Will Fish isn't a right back.
Some run he made near the end, though, eh? Brilliant. Just stay in that corner, laddie. Stay in that corner. Christ, he must be the biggest right back in Britain, man. Christ.
I also like that he came out today and said that he doesn't want to go back to Man United just yet. He wants to stay at the end of the season. He's got stuff to do here, so I rate that.
Yeah.
Huge fan. What's it with Hibs players and not just getting the ball in the corner and holding it there? At one point, Eli Yuan, he'd done a turn and I was like, oh my God, that boy's gravy. Then he literally undone the turn and lost the ball. I was like, what? Just go to the corner, mate. What is going on? Yeah, I think
game management, man.
Eli Yuan's definitely got a lot of talent, but sometimes it just seems like the screw gets loose, doesn't it? Like, why does he do that sort of thing?
But that's what makes him good. This is the thing. That makes him good. Defenders can't defend against him because he doesn't even care what he's got to do. So, like, how are they making what he's got to do? Like, this is the thing that Yuan's unpredictability is what makes him the player that he is. That, and obviously, I mean, the athleticism, to be honest, in our league is just. Teams outside the Old Firm generally didn't have guys who athletically have got what he's got. The pace and the power to match, and the fact that he can control a ball as well as a guy who's a diminutive wee sort of number 10. He is so good, but I totally get why he fucking really frustrates a lot of people, because it is like it's like the PlayStation controller's broken at points, eh?
I think that's what makes him. He is so frustrating, but then he'll do something like, wow, how's he at Hibs? And he'll do something like, oh, that's why he's at Hibs. But I love that.
He's got some leap on him as well, eh? Like he can jump very high. Like I've seen him. Yeah. He's deceptively good in the air. Like he is very good in the air. But I don't think you can kind of drill decision making into a person. Like this is just the player he is. It's probably the player he always will be. I mean, maybe be able to refine certain parts of his game, but you can't teach somebody to make decisions.
There you have it. You can't teach someone to make decisions.
Well, you either do it or you don't. Like, he is unpredictable. That's how he's made his way in the game thus far, isn't it?
No, I just think some people, well, obviously, I'm not going to go into it, but obviously some people think his decision making isn't as good as others at the club.
But
which is absolutely wild.
We're just about to come on to the next game, looking ahead. But just before we do, speaking of selection, is the current front four? Are you guys comfortable with sticking to that until someone gives a reason not to?
I'm the only one that wants to see Martin Boyle dropped.
So essentially, do you think
back in?
Eli Yuan over Martin Boyle, did you say?
Yeah.
So you would Stonewall penalty on Boyle, by the way. Don't know what Campbell was bringing him down for. Stonewall penalty, man.
Not allowed to discuss it, Ryan.
Didn't even get checked.
But I'd drop him, bring Eli Yuan back in for me.
Yeah. And in terms of Campbell, does Campbell keep his place? And I know he had another, he's just the type of player who puts himself in good positions. He doesn't always finish them, but even that chance at the start, it just shows kind of the value that he brings. Do you think there's any scope for Doidge or Adam Le Fondre if he comes back at any point? putting him out the starting 11, or do you think Campbell keeps it for the foreseeable?
I'd bring Yuan in for Campbell.
Have him central and then Boyle out wide?
I think so. I quite like Elian through the middle. I do
It
think
worked
his
really
best
well.
position's on the left, but I do quite like him through the middle as well.
I always think of his goal
I
was
don't know
at
how
Ross
Venti would feel
County.
about playing with him, to be honest. It's like I'm working hard enough as it is having him up with me.
The only thing is, with Venti's range of passing, though, I think Yuan, when he played up front previously, I always think of the goal away to Ross County that he scored. He does like getting like the ball in front of him on occasion. So I actually think Venti and Yuan, in theory, could work pretty well. Ryan, what about yourself? What would your front four be?
Well, you can't really drop Tavares at the minute, so I would probably go along the lines of what Liam's saying. Yuan does give you something different up there with his raw pace, playing on the last man. So, we need to have our best players on the pitch, or the players that are the biggest threats going forward in those positions. So, probably Boyle, Yuan, Tavares, and Venti. As well as Campbell does, I sometimes think he's playing in a position where he's no great with his back to goal. He's not a midfielder. He's kind of in that awkward position of being a wee bit versatile, but no great at anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And then just looking back to the YouTube comment section, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret, but our friend Mike, who comes to the Hibs games with us and stuff, like Michael, he has got his own bingo card going. He's not revealed to me all the slots on it, but athleticism from Liam is one of his things. So Mikey is buzzing because he gets to cross the bingo card of Liam saying athleticism. So one week we are all going to say our cliche saying, and Mikey's going to have the biggest beamer on his face. And then Jack Skellington said, "Hope you are well, lads. What was for dinner?" Greg, have you had dinner yet? And is it you or Elaine cooking? We've not asked this question in a while, so I'm going to give it to you.
Basically just leftovers for last night. 11 and herb, chicken, roasters and veg. It was decent.
Nando's goes up in flames. Ryan, what are you having for dinner?
No eating yet. I'm waiting for Nicola to come back to the shop, so I'll be getting what I'm given. That's the general rule in this house. And it's not just you'll get what you're given, it's you'll like it as well. So there's absolutely no room for complaints, like.
Too
right. And Liam, you've always got a majestic meal on the. Oh no, you're away from home today. What's going on?
I went to Chipotle and got a burrito bowl, chicken, black beans. I'm not going to tell you the entire order. That'd be really boring, but you can describe a burrito bowl. After my beef brisket sandwich for lunch, I'm feeling quite full, so I'm going to go for a lie down after this and maybe a wee cup of tea or something.
I'm going to be meatballs, rice, and I'll get a wee tomato sauce and get some chilies involved as well. Get it nice and hot. I don't know why, boys, but I'm just being a bit obsessed with spicy food of late. Just like it when things have got a bit of a kick to them. But one
meatballs and spaghetti, surely, no? Meatballs and rice.
Aye, mate, mix it up. That's what we're doing. That's
just ridiculous.
There's nonnas in Italy who are not happy about that. Like
nonnas.
Aye, because nonnas are going to be absolutely delighted. I've got myself little meatballs as well. Let's be serious here.
You're making them yourself, man. Fuck's sake.
You can just imagine that would be like, oh, I'm angry.
Mate, it takes about 3 seconds to make a meatball. You just buy a packet of mince, put some seasoning in there, and shake them into balls. There you go.
All right, I'm the weirdo because I didn't make my own meatballs. Good stuff.
You're the weirdo because you're having rice with meatballs, mate.
Are they still on baby food, eh?
Oh, that's mental stuff.
All right, Jack, for the first time, we're no longer answering questions on dinner because I'm being attacked. Final listener question sent in on Twitter. Sibo Slice, what a guy. He said, do you think SPFL would ever get rid of VAR? If not, what changes would you make? Ryan did specifically request we don't speak VAR. But
who can answer this question? Since it's from Sibo.
So I think the answer at the current moment is no. If we're looking towards the end of the season and probably the next couple of seasons, I don't think VAR is going anywhere. But if you guys can make a change to VAR, what would you be hoping to do with it?
Change the people that are operating it.
Definitely be a good start. Ryan, anything yourself?
They make a big thing about not re-refereeing the game through VAR. I think that's exactly what they need to do. Because the referee you've got in the pitch is obviously not doing it properly in the first instance, so you're giving yourself a second chance to get it right. So there's a lot of things they won't look at because it doesn't meet a certain criteria. But like a foul's a foul, a red card's a red card, whatever. So if they need to referee certain decisions, then just do it. Who cares? Like, who's going to whinge at you if you're getting something right every time?
But it would be a bit boring if I'd stay there for about 3 hours whilst they.
I obviously don't know. The wait time's shit, but like, just there's things that didn't get looked at because like they don't make that framework. Like, then just make it wider. Make those guidelines broader.
And Greg, yourself?
I would actually change some of the decisions that get made. I think we need to have a slideshow of similar fouls in the box, and maybe run through them and see what was given, what wasn't given. Would imagine it'd be a large majority of blue players in the box getting penalties, but it doesn't really seem to happen most other teams. And then, I mean, you go on Twitter and every single decision throughout the season gets brought up, photos, still frames, the lot. So you need to look at a slideshow every time you're going to give a penalty for a certain foul.
Have you seen that table, by the way? That Celtic fan tweeted me yesterday, but like all the different. I'm trying to use my phone. With all the different ratios of penalties for and against, Rangers have got the highest percentage of penalties for and against of any team in the world. Wow. Since August 2020, they've been given 30 penalties and they've had 3 against, which is 10 penalties given for every one that's given against them. PSG are second with 32 and 12. That shows you how big the gap is.
That's not even 3-1.
I love the Celtic Daz commitment, by the way, to go into researching. I mean, penalties every team's had for and against. They've put in a wee spreadsheet with Rangers at the top. I must say, I haven't fact checked that. That was sent to me by Celtic Daz on Twitter, so it could be incorrect, but the amount of effort that's gone into it. He's actually broken it down into penalties for every X games and penalties against for every X games. Rangers give away a penalty on average every 42 games.
That's wild.
It's more
but they get one every 4 games.
That's better.
And they're on the now.
Insane.
Wild.
Yeah. Craziness.
The obvious thing to point to is inconsistencies for everybody. That's what gets people's backs up, really. When you think about it, isn't it? It's the inconsistencies. But how are they all so inconsistent if they're all reading off the same guidelines, the same rule book? I know there's human interpretation, but it shouldn't be like so different from one person to the next, eh?
Yeah, it's wild, to be honest, and it's clear, like it actually is clear what they're trying to do. I think anyway. I really do think so.
Well, my addition to VAR would be if something is inconclusive or difficult to decide, you just stand with what was given on the field or on the pitch. I just think that if they're taking 5 minutes to scrutinise whether or not something's a foul or not, or whether or not something's offside, I think whatever's happened on the pitch should just stand.
That is the rule, though, is it not? Clear and obvious.
They took 5 minutes to decide that Hibs were offside against.
Oh, that's
Aberdeen
an offside,
semi-final.
Aye, but the rule for everyone else is clear and obvious.
I don't know if they do that because like
it
should be applied. Yeah,
they're meant to.
Just
I'd get rid of that.
Rule. Yeah,
I would get rid of clear and obvious and just make it about getting the decision right.
Yeah,
take away the ambiguity of what's clear and obvious. I'd probably make the audio available as well, so you can hear the conversation. Fans on the ground can hear the conversation. So you can hear them say, Nick Walsh, come on, we're needing a penalty for Rangers, come on. I'd probably bring in something around the second yellow card as well. I don't think that sending off in my book. It doesn't really matter how you've got to. If that's ultimately the decision, I think it's about getting it right. So I'd bring that in. But yeah, other than that, I think the biggest thing would be change the personnel. Just put a wee room somewhere. It doesn't need to be in Scotland. It doesn't need to be Scottish referees. Just get folk that are better qualified to watch the game in the VAR room. No Greg Aitken every week.
Can we not just give the rugby referees the rule book for football? Give them a couple of months, man, and they'd be sorted, eh? Like, see the way that they video ref the games? It's absolutely spot on. For anybody that watched the World Cup, it's bang on. Not a single decision did they get wrong. Not a single decision did they go minutes and minutes deliberating over. They just got everything perfect. I know they've been up
totally different game, though.
Sorry?
Totally different game.
No, I know, but I mean, like, they brought in a way to officiate the game properly, and it works. Like, the principles are the same. Like, efficiency. Get the decision right in the end. It doesn't matter how you get there.
What I struggle with a wee bit with Harry, and we've gone for no talking about VR to a 15-minute segment on it. What I struggle with a wee bit is the time it takes them to watch the decision after something's happened. Like, are you already watching the game on telly and therefore able to make that decision in real time to then relay it to them rather than it taking 3 minutes after the fact for it to be done? I just struggle with that. To me, what that gives me the impression is they're all sitting with their feet up in the VAR room having a cup of coffee and reading a copy of Hello magazine rather than watching the fucking game. That's the impression I get, eating donuts.
Eating donuts.
Goodness.
Fucking donuts.
Well, one final thing on VAR. Mike said, I'm assuming it's a tweet, saw a tweet saying that Rangers are the only team in the world in leagues that have VAR that haven't had a penalty given against them this season. Only penalties against them have been in Europe. Again, crazy stats about Rangers and the old VAR. A couple YouTube questions, then we'll get on to the Aberdeen game. Kian said, thoughts on the Van der Veen rumour. Van der Veen? I don't know how his name is, I can't remember. Anyway, Van der Veen. That's
Van Veen.
Van Veen. Aye. What do you make of the rumours? Is that a player you would like to see Hibs go for? It's not a position we really need to look for.
Well, they got one Dutch striker. Don't need a second.
That'll be that. So then if we had Zamama, one Moroccan player, we shouldn't have got Benji, another Moroccan player. Come on, man, we can get two.
Different positions.
Yeah, no, true.
Yeah.
True.
I think he'll be on a big wage too. And given the fact he's just went there, it'll probably be a decent fee. And we've just spent money on a big wage on Vente, so Vente's plenty, my man.
Yeah. Okay. And Lewis Young asked, did any of you get good deals on Black Friday? We'll throw in today Cyber Monday as well. Anybody get any Christmas shopping on the go? Anything like that?
Nah. Black Friday's for Tories, mate.
Okay, so this
rampant consumerism. None of that. Rampant consumerism shite.
Speaking of Christmas, sorry. Second part of Sibo's question was top 5 roast dinner / Christmas dinner items. You're only allowed one meat choice.
Fucking hell. Most important thing on the whole plate is gravy.
I would allow gravy to be in a top 5. All right, let's try and build a team top 5 then.
Right.
All right, are we all happy that gravy is going to be part of that?
I'm going Sam Allardyce, pint of gravy.
All right, gravy is one. All right, Greg, what's your favourite thing in Christmas dinner? Mr. Christmas himself.
Joe, I like the stuffing. Good bit of stuffing.
All right, we've got gravy and stuffing. All right,
So
Ryan, we're
good.
happy with that staying on. I think
Well,
reaction, that was a definite yes.
Listen,
the
he's no
question earlier,
Santa.
I
He
thought
doesn't get to
stuffing.
decide. Right? We all decide, and I decide that stuffing's on the list, right?
This is a socialist republic, all right? Equal measures for all members.
No Black Friday.
Up to dinner.
Who are up for dinner?
Exactly. I'll throw on. I don't know if this is risky. I like roast patties, and I think when they're done well, they're very good. Roast potatoes.
How's that risky?
It's because it's me saying it, I just felt I was going to be attacked for it. That's what I'm
That's
used to on this
the
podcast,
most
Greg.
beige thing.
It's actually the most
Harry.
sensible thing you've said in years.
Aye, that is, to be fair.
Yeah. All right, we've got 2 left. Liam, you need to throw one in.
I really like roast parsnips. I love a roast parsnip. I like roast parsnips. I like roasted carrots, and I quite like a bit of roasted beetroot as well. All 3 in the same tray goes quite nicely. So I'm going to choose parsnips because that's my favourite.
A wee bit of colour to the plate, yeah.
I'm happy for parsnips to be a part. I think if beetroot was in there, I think it would have been a questionable. We would have had to get the VAR involved for that decision, but parsnips, I think, is passable. And Greg, Mr. Christmas, you get to the final choice. What protein of choice are you going for?
Mate, it's obviously got to be turkey. Like,
I just think that
and do you know what? People will say, "Oh, it's too dry," but nah. I think if you do it properly, it's not too dry. Right.
I love turkey. It's genuinely such an underappreciated meat. We should eat turkey all year round. I think turkey's quality. I like a leg, I like the breast, I like the skin. It's all good, man.
For anybody that doesn't know, Liam is an eater. Liam is an eater, by the way.
Liam's
He can eat
100%
twice.
getting clipped there. I like the breast.
do you get what? Like, there's not really a bad meat, but like the combination. See if you got turkey on Christmas and a wee bit of gammon as well. Heroes
Bit of
Tan to go with. Oh,
Gammon's
now we're
top tier.
talking.
Gammon's top tier. Like, see if it's not Christmas, if it's roast, it's gammon.
And speaking of top tier, Mike believes that stuffing is the GOAT. So there you go. And then let's actually get back to football action. I feel we've avoided Hibs for long enough, but we've got a big test coming up. We're hopefully going to get some revenge from the semi-final of the League Cup, where Aberdeen beat us 1-0, and we face them at Easter Road after beating them 2-0 in the league earlier in the season. Guys, what are we expecting? Aberdeen kind of in a weird patch of form. They got beat 6-0 off Celtic, then they conceded a last-minute penalty to draw 1 each against Rangers. Confident going into this game?
Well, it's not Rangers. They won't need up their performance.
Indeed. All right. I said, Ryan, are you confident for this game? I didn't get.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear you. Sorry. No, I would say I was fairly confident. I wouldn't be too disheartened if we played much like we played against them in the semi-final. Thought we dominated the game in pretty much every facet. We've just come off the back of 2 wins as well, which Liam mentioned earlier on. It would probably be games that we wouldn't be going in with the expectation to win. So I think we've got a wee bit of momentum built up now. 2 games on the bounce. I think that's first time in a long time. It dates back to when Lee Johnson done it, whenever he did it, won 2 games in a row. So I think we've probably got that wee bit of momentum going. Everybody's getting familiar with the playing style. Aberdeen are patchy at the minute, like you say. So I'd be confident going into this game, especially with being at home.
Yeah. And Liam, is there any players you think need to up their performance in this game? Obviously, in terms of the race for third, Hibs and Aberdeen aren't quite occupying the top 4 at the moment, but that's where both teams want to end up. Is there any players that have maybe been a bit underwhelming of late you'd think could step up in a big game?
I don't really want to be negative about the team after a performance. So I think what will be difficult will be that Aberdeen usually go with 3, maybe 4 central midfielders. So I think that'll be difficult. So I think the 2 in the middle, if it's Newell and Levitt, if Levitt's good to go and he's fit, then I think that'll be a tough battle for them. So they'll need to be at their very best, I think, against Aberdeen's midfield 3. But no, I think a good chance. I think the one thing that maybe the advantage that on the face of it we had with them playing away on Thursday is a bit of a kind of misnomer because they're out. So I'd imagine they'll play a probably pretty weak inside against HJK. I'm sure they do want to get their first win in Europe, but they'll not be going hell for leather to get it. So I think Sunday will be a tough examination. I think that's a big part of why they've been so patchy this season, is having to play twice a week. I think it's maybe hindered them a wee bit because I don't think they've quite got the quality in the squad to do that. So I think it'll be a tough game on Sunday.
And Greg, do you think that the kind of revenge game that you could look at this game as, will that provide motivation for the Hibs players going into this, or will that not be a thought?
The game as it is, I think we've done well in recent weeks, so just need to keep it going. There's no point looking at any external factors. You just need to turn up, play the game, put a shift in, do your job.
And in sad news, boys, Kev from Newcastle said, even though he's already introduced himself as that earlier in the pod, I love this guy, said, I'm a vegetarian, so I've just fallen out with y'all. We got parsnips for you, Kev, don't you?
We got parsnips, mate. We got parsnips. Listen, Kev, when we met in Blackpool, we didn't discuss like dietary requirements or anything like that. So you'll need to give us a free pass on this one, bud.
You're telling us he's a fucking celiac next as well. No chance, man.
Fuck's sake.
But last thing we need to do before we sign off is a bit of score predictions. Even though you guys don't tend to like to give them, I like to hear them. Liam, coming to you first. Your favourite part of the show, apart from the how are yous. What's the score going to be against Aberdeen this weekend?
1-0 Hibs.
Who's going to nab it?
Rocky Bashiri.
Oh, yes, like a bit of that action. 33-yard screamer, top bins. That's what Liam said, not me. Greg, what do you think the score's going to be this weekend?
2-0 Hibs.
Oh, another clean sheet. Who's getting the goals here?
Go for a wee giant double.
Oh, my God, Tavares is on
pitch
fire.
invasion at the end.
Ryan, what are you thinking?
I also think it'll be 2-0 Hibs. Back-to-back home clean sheets. I think Boyle might get back to a wee bit of form and score, and Vente has not scored in a while either, so I'm going to back those 2.
Nice. I can't believe that we're all thinking clean sheets these days, boys. I like the confidence in the back line. It's not something that we've heard much this season. I'll join you. Why not? 3-0 Hibs, back to form, gets himself a double, and then Jordan Abita, he's not scored in a while. Has he scored since Luzerne?
Nah, just that.
Just that.
Just that.
What a boy. Well, Jordan Abita, congrats on your goal, because I'm manifesting it until it happens now. But guys, thanks so much for joining me. Everybody, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time.